At the Cartridge Freak's store, Alpha told Akira to buy some ammo, and then they would train in the desert. As they were about to enter, they could already hear a conversation inside. When they walked in, Shizuka greeted Akira. He noticed 3 women inside, 2 of whom seemed familiar. Alpha reminded him that they were the ones he had saved before. Alpha commented on their appearance, saying Akira should be glad he saved them. However, Akira felt a bit off about that statement. Anyway, he told Shizuka he was there to buy some ammo. Akira apologized for not buying anything else, but Shizuka reassured him that him coming back alive was what mattered most. Shizuka then took the opportunity to introduce Akira and asked the women to give him some tips as a hunter. They introduced themselves, and Sarah admitted that they had almost died the other day. She advised Akira to be careful, and he assured them he would be. After their brief exchange, they said their goodbyes and left. Akira sighed in relief once they were gone, and Shizuka noticed this, staring at him as he checked the ammo. Akira asked what was up, but to his surprise, Shizuka asked when will he tell her that he was the one who saved Sarah and Elena. He continued to play dumb, but Shizuka assured him she wouldn't tell Elena and Sarah about it. Akira kept up his act, but Shizuka told him that trusting someone is part of a hunter's job, so she could understand his caution. But Akira was still puzzled. How did she know it was him? She explained that the bullets she sold had serial numbers on the casings, which confirmed her suspicion, as she had sold those bullets at that time. The bullet Akira used as a weight to throw the note to Elena had the serial number on it. Cornered, Akira confessed the truth and apologized for keeping it a secret. But to his surprise, Shizuka revealed she had been bluffing all along. He asked about the serial numbers. Though they were real, it wasn't enough evidence to prove her point. She had merely guessed that he was the one who saved them because of his actions earlier and bluffed to confirm it with Akira himself. Shizuka just smiled and promised not to tell the others. However, she advised that if Akira planned to tell them eventually, he shouldn't wait too long. This was particularly because of Sarah, whose rescue meant so much to her that she had fallen in love while recounting the story of her savior. Though her story had changed slightly, she now referred to her savior as he, and filled in the details with her own imagination. She had even concluded that their savior was the son of a big shot, moonlighting as a hunter when he found them. Because of this, telling her the truth now would only complicate things. That's why Akira asked Shizuka to definitely not tell anyone. In the wasteland near Kuzusahara, Akira was undergoing visual training with a weapon dog. The weapon dog charged at him, ready to bite. Akira aimed his rifle at the dog and shot it in the head, making it flip from the force and hit the ground behind him. Although it was just visual training, Akira still had a long way to go. For instance, he needed to reduce the number of visual dead bodies of himself. As he looked at his own dead bodies, though they were just visual images, he still hadn't gotten used to seeing himself dead. With Alpha's detection ability, she sensed something far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. It was a horde of monsters. She immediately instructed Akira to run towards the ruins. Alpha told him that the horde of monsters was attacking a truck in the ruins. But Akira asked why they were heading towards them instead of the other way. Alpha explained that the horde had already noticed him, and even if they ran in the other direction, there would be no place for him to hide. If the horde dealt with the truck, Akira would be their next target. That's why he had to join forces with the truckers and fight to the death. There, he would have a better chance of surviving. A few hours earlier, Darius, the one manning the machine gun, argued that this was why they should have hired more guards. Katsuragi, who was driving, argued back that they couldn't afford it. He added that they couldn't go to any cities with a horde of monsters following them. As a result, they had no choice but to head to the Kuzuhara ruins. The reason was that the deep ruins of Kuzuhara were the most dangerous place nearby, and if they were lucky, they might find a hunter who could wipe out those monsters. They even sent out an emergency signal, hoping someone would hear them. The rest would come down to luck. Back in the present, Akira was running towards the ruins, with the monsters spotting him. Alpha assured him to keep running. She told him to swallow some recovery capsule and move like he did in his training. Akira argued that he always ended up dead in training, but Alpha told him to move like he did the time he didn't die. Akira aimed at the 3 monsters heading toward him and shot them in the head. Now that they were dead, Akira asked about the truck. Alpha informed him that the truck was cornered in a dead end but was putting up a fight. Meanwhile, at the truck, both Katsuragi and Darius were firing at the monsters with everything they had. Katsuragi even joked that there wouldn't be enough meat and bones for all the monsters while firing the machine gun. As the machine gun was almost empty, Katsuragi asked Darius to hold them off for a minute while he reloaded. But 3 monsters were already in front of him. Was this the end? But then the monsters were shot, saving him. The other monsters were also killed, and Darius looked up to where the gunfire had come from. In the building, someone was sniping the monsters down, and it was none other than Akira. Akira asked if the monsters would really come after him, considering there were so many of them. Alpha told him they might, which was why he needed to continue providing cover for the truck. They continued firing, and Katsuragi finished reloading the machine gun. It looked like luck was on their side as they kept firing at the monsters. After some time, the area cleared out, and they had finally done it. Akira sighed in relief. Alpha told him he did well, and Akira thanked Alpha for her support. With everything done, Akira went down to say hi so they wouldn't get suspicious. As Akira approached, Darius was surprised to see that their savior was just a kid. But he didn't let Akira's appearance fool him. His aim and judgment were both impressive. Katsuragi approached Akira, thanked him, and asked if he had come because of the emergency signal. But Akira denied it, saying he had only come because the monsters attacked him. Katsuragi laughed, noting that they were both unlucky. Alpha told Akira that they had only gotten caught up in his misfortune. But Akira told Alpha that they should brush it off since they also used them as a decoy, so they shouldn't complain. They introduced themselves, Katsuragi, Darius, and Akira. Katsuragi mentioned that he ran a store in his truck, and they were on their way to Kugamayama City. Since Akira was a hunter, Katsuragi joked that he was now a customer, laughing as he said it. And since fate had brought them together, he offered Akira a discount. He also offered Akira a ride back to the city, saying he needed a break after what had just happened. Akira really wanted to ride in the truck. His childlike excitement showed that he hadn't had the chance to experience things like this in his childhood. It's kind of sad to think about, isn't it? Alpha seemed to notice this and agreed. The truck's engine started, and they got going, running over the countless bodies of monsters they had killed. Katsuragi laughed as they drove, and Akira got the chance to enjoy the ride. Enjoy your life while you still can. That's the message this image conveyed. As they drove off, the horde of corpses was left behind. However, it seems like it's not over yet. A massive horde, much larger than the last time, continued to follow them. Katsuragi admitted that their earlier encounter was the most dangerous trip they've ever experienced. They ventured east, right to the edge of ELGC territory, where they stocked up on supplies to sell in far-off places. The ELGC stands for the Eastern League of Governing Corporations, which consists of companies that run cities like Kagayama. Katsuragi explained that beyond the eastern frontier is an area too dangerous to explore, known as the Frontline. Only the best of the best hunters operate there. Those guys use tanks the way most hunters use guns. Akira grew more curious about the tanks. They use tanks because the monsters there are as tall as mountains. Although it's extremely dangerous, hunters continue to go there because it's worth the risk. Katsuragi's idea is to buy high-end gear from the Frontlines and sell it to Kagayama City or other cities far from the Frontlines to make huge profits. Katsuragi continued, saying that he plans to sell the goods in his truck to expand his business and eventually become a corporation, maybe even one of the Big Five. Akira commented that reaching the Big Five is an ambitious goal, but Katsuragi replied that it's not just a dream. With his deal sealed, he's determined to make it happen. After all, he won the gamble of a lifetime. Laughing, he joked that when he runs his own city, he'll issue new currency named Katsuragi. The haul he has in his truck is his first step toward achieving that dream, which is why he's so grateful for Akira's help. Akira was pleased with this. Having a businessman OU has its own advantages. Katsuragi added that as long as Akira doesn't ask for too much, anything will be fine. As they were happily chatting, Alpha told Akira to look outside the window using his binoculars. Akira immediately complied and began scanning the surroundings. He couldn't believe his eyes. He quickly asked Katsuragi if they had led the horde of monsters to the ruins. Katsuragi was a bit embarrassed to admit it, but he had no choice. However, Akira didn't care about that. What mattered to him was whether the horde they had just wiped out was the entire group. Katsuragi quickly understood what Akira was implying and ordered Darius to use the scanner to its maximum range, 60 degrees at 3 o'clock. There, they spotted a much larger horde than the one they had just defeated. Akira asked how many monsters they could see. Katsuragi couldn't believe they had caught up with them. He was sure they had misdirected them earlier. Darius suggested they head to the city for help, but Katsuragi countered that the city would just think they brought the monsters with them and kill them along with the horde. Their fuel was also running low. Akira suggested they go to the ruins and leave the truck behind to lose the horde. But as soon as Katsuragi heard this, he immediately refused. He reasoned that the smell of the horde they had just wiped out would attract more powerful monsters from deep within the ruins, and if that happened, they'd all die. This made Akira glare at him, although he was looking for an excuse to keep his truck. But Alpha reminded Akira that what Katsuragi said was true. Akira sighed. They had no choice but to fight again. Now that they had to battle, Akira asked Katsuragi if they could use the gear from the front lines. But the guns required special ammo that they didn't have, causing Katsuragi to curse. The horde of monsters would reach them at any moment, so they needed to prepare. They found a spot to make their stand, using terminals to communicate like walkie-talkies. The truck was parked with a large rock behind it. They needed to protect the machine gun, as it was their best chance of survival. Alpha instructed Akira to keep recovery pills in his mouth to swallow every time they wore off. She also told him to open a few of the pills and put the powder in his pocket to rub on his injuries. Akira asked if they could win, but Alpha reassured him that with her support, they had a chance. Akira was still worried, but Alpha reminded him that with her help, they could prevail, as long as he didn't give up. Even with Alpha's guidance, it would mean nothing without his resolve. Akira resolved to win this fight. They all took their positions, ready to face whatever danger awaited them. Katsuragi prepared his machine gun as the monsters closed in. Even though it was dark, Alpha augmented Akira's vision, making it easier for him to see. Since the merchants had taken out most of the ranged monsters during the chase, they needed the horde to get closer to kill the tougher ones more quickly. Akira needed to aim precisely at the monsters' weak points and avoid any mistakes, as they would only make things worse. In 5 seconds, they would start shooting. With Alpha counting down, Akira aimed at the thousands of monsters. When the countdown hit 1, they began firing. Katsuragi took out the tougher monsters while Darius and Akira supported him from the sides. They continued to fire non-stop, killing hundreds. Akira noticed that this horde was much tougher than the one they had wiped out in the ruins earlier, making the machine gun even more crucial. Katsuragi assured him not to worry, as he had plenty of ammo left. He joked that may the last man standing win. As they kept firing. Meanwhile in Cheryl's base, the kids who had recently joined demanded to see this, Akira. Though Cheryl remained calm, she was actually worried. She wasn't sure if Akira could come, and she could only stall for a few days. But she wondered what if Akira didn't show up. Back with Akira, the monsters were closing in, getting closer to the top where Akira was stationed. Alpha told Akira to reload, and he complied immediately. His ammo was running low, and he wondered if he could hold out until the end. Alpha warned Akira to be careful, as he hadn't killed the monster yet. Although Alpha's support was perfect, Akira could only do half of it correctly. He looked to his side, where 4 monsters were charging toward him. The recoil from his gun made it feel like it was tearing him apart. One of the monsters leapt at him, and he knew he wouldn't make it. He dodged, sliding his body to the ground, and shot the monster from the side, though it slashed his left shoulder. He immediately thought of using recovery pills, but without him realizing it, the monster wasn't dead yet. Alpha immediately warned him, but it was too late. As he watched the monster go for a bite, his heart began pounding. He remembered the first time he encountered a monster in the slum, and he didn't want to repeat what happened back then. He grabbed his rifle and pointed it inside the monster's mouth. With a grin, as if he was enjoying it, he pulled the trigger, killing the creature. After shooting the monster, he kicked it away with his foot. Exhausted and injured, Alpha told him to use the meds in his pocket. Darius noticed and offered to cover him. Akira took the opportunity to pour the medicine directly onto his wounds. Akira stood up, barely able to walk straight as he staggered. Despite this, he asked Alpha what he needed to do next. Alpha told him to stand firm and keep shooting. Even with his exhausted body and injured arm, Akira stood his ground and shot the monsters to death. As they continued to fight, their ammo dwindled, especially for the machine gun. Despite the hopeless situation, they kept battling. Katsuragi smiled, even though he knew they might not survive. It seemed like it was all over, everything. Even Alpha knew it. Akira smiled, already accepting their fate, but Alpha smiled too. And then she said, "He's saved." Akira was confused by this statement. Behind him, it looked like shooting stars were hitting the ground, followed by explosions. The one firing was Sarah, using her grenade launcher non-stop. Elena was also there, driving their vehicle toward them. Alpha pointed towards the approaching vehicle and told Akira that they were saved. As they looked closer, they realized it was Sarah and Elena. Sarah asked Elena if she was sure this was where their client, who had sent the emergency request, was located. It was much farther than they had expected. Elena reassured her that she was certain, and since they would be covering the cost of the ammo, they could go all out. Akira, Darius, and Katsuragi stared at them with hope. It seemed like luck hadn't abandoned them after all. Elena and Sarah continued to fire at the monsters, wiping them all out. Inside the truck, Akira thanked them for saving their lives. They would have been doomed without their help. But Sarah brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal since they were getting paid, and besides, Akira's group had already taken down most of the monsters, making their job easier. Still, Sarah found it surprising that Akira had gotten caught up in a horde of monsters. What a coincidence, she remarked. Akira joked that maybe he should buy a good luck charm or something. Speaking of good luck charms, Sarah started unzipping her suit and pulled out a bullet. She bragged that it was her good luck charm, the bullet from her savior who had rescued them not long ago. For her, it was a proud reminder of how lucky she had been. Alpha commented that it was nice how he had just saved them, and now those two had saved him. But Akira felt something was off. Alpha asked if he was glad and answered her own question. Not only had he been saved, but he also got to sneak a peek at something. Although Alpha was just as good as Sarah, she teased Akira, asking if being able to touch someone meant more to him. Akira, annoyed, told Alpha to shut up. Suddenly, an argument caught his attention. Elena and Katsuragi were arguing about payment, with Katsuragi admitting he was broke. He wasn't trying to scam them, though, and to prove it, he showed them his goods, which could sell for a fortune. But something else caught their eye. Sarah pointed it out. It was a gun called Ragnarok, a weapon capable of firing annihilation warheads. Elena and Sarah approached it, amazed by its power. Katsuragi, proud of his prize from a recent shipment job, explained the hardships he endured to obtain it. Elena and Sarah smiled upon hearing this. Katsuragi, sensing something was up, asked why they were smiling. Elena then asked Sarah if she could use it with her strength. Immediately, Katsuragi intervened, insisting that the Ragnarok was worth more than what they had done for him, making it an unfair deal. But Elena argued that since he was broke, they needed something as payment. As a businessman, Katsuragi knew this was true. Nervously, he signaled Akira to talk to them since he knew them, but Akira looked away, not wanting to get involved. Feeling betrayed, Katsuragi reluctantly agreed to hire them as bodyguards until he could pay them fully. But if he didn't pay them in time, they would take the Ragnarok as compensation. Katsuragi's face looked like he had been robbed in broad daylight, but he had no choice but to agree. Akira commented that making a deal wasn't easy, and Alpha agreed. But then Akira started to wobble. Alpha asked if he was alright, and he said he was, though he was feeling dizzy. However, his body told a different story. He collapsed to the floor, unable to move, with everything becoming blurry and dark. He saw Alpha one last time, still worried, but she reassured him it was fine and that he should rest. With that, his consciousness blacked out. He found himself in a white, empty, and endless space. Everything was pitch white. Was this a dream? He wondered. He looked around and saw Alpha near him, talking like an AI. She kept repeating, Subject 1. Failure, destination not reached, progress halted by death of subject. Support procedures require review, with different subject numbers. Akira was confused by what she was saying, but she continued to repeat her words, one after another, until her last line. Subject 499. In progress. Destination not reached. Assessing particulars. End of report. Then she stopped talking. Akira asked himself if it was over. The white, endless place shattered like a mirror, falling apart. When everything was gone, his thoughts again blacked out. He woke up in a cozy room, thinking about the dream he had. Alpha, who was by his side, greeted him. Akira greeted her back and asked where they were, looking around. Just then, Sarah opened the door and greeted Akira, but her revealing clothes caught him off guard. Immediately, he asked Alpha what was going on. Alpha told him he was in a safe place and urged him to try to remember what happened before he blacked out. He recalled collapsing in the truck, but that was it. Sarah then told Akira where his clothes were. In a hurry, he immediately started putting them on. Nervous, he struggled with his pants, and Sarah offered to help, but he quickly refused. After dressing, he asked Sarah why he was there. Sarah suggested he take a seat, and once he did, she dropped the bombshell. He had been asleep for 3 days. Sarah explained that he had fainted due to overdosing on recovery capsules, which can cause many side effects. They figured he would recover once the excess nanomachines in his body calmed down, so they brought him to their house to rest. Akira bowed and thanked them for taking care of him. He then asked if they had rescued him as part of their emergency job, but Sarah admitted they had chosen to help him of their own accord. Akira asked if she was sure, feeling guilty that he couldn't pay them back. In response, Sarah proposed that he answer a question for her. Akira asked what it was. With determination in her eyes, Sarah asked if he was the one who saved them from the Kuzuhara ruins. 2 days earlier, Sarah had told Shizuka about what happened to Akira. Sarah joked that it was the second time he had been attacked by a horde of monsters, to which Shizuka commented that maybe he had bad luck, but since he was fine, there was nothing to worry about. Then Shizuka asked Sarah where Elena was. Sarah replied that she was keeping an eye on Katsuragi nearby. As if seeing through her, Shizuka asked what the real reason was for her visit. Sarah admitted that she wanted to talk about the time she was saved from the Kuzuhara ruins. Shizuka mentioned that she had heard the story so many times she could almost recite it by heart. Sarah asked if Shizuka knew who her savior was, but Shizuka asked why she would know. Sarah replied that it was because Shizuka's instincts were usually spot on. However, Shizuka still said she didn't know. Sarah, frustrated, demanded an answer, but Shizuka calmly explained that if she really didn't know or couldn't guess, she would say she didn't know. As a friend, if she guessed wrong, it could cause trouble for Sarah and someone else, so she would say she didn't know. Moreover, if her savior were a friend of Shizuka's, she wouldn't betray their trust if they asked her not to reveal anything, so she would still say she didn't know. As a businesswoman, she couldn't go around spreading her customers' private information, so once again, she would say she didn't know. In the end, Shizuka's answer would always be the same. She didn't know. This made it difficult for Sarah, but Shizuka told her that it wasn't the reason she had come to see her. Confused, Sarah asked what she meant. Shizuka had already guessed that Sarah had a suspicion about who her savior was, but her logic and experience didn't align with it. That's why Sarah came to Shizuka to confirm her guess, and Shizuka hit the nail on the head. Shizuka asked how much Sarah really wanted to know about her savior's details. Sarah hesitated, but Shizuka advised her to think it over and ask them sincerely. If they lied, well, that's life. Sarah thought it over and decided she would ask when she was ready, thanking Shizuka for the advice. Shizuka then shared her own intuition and asked if Sarah knew about old domain users. Curious, Sarah asked what that was. Shizuka explained that old domain users are people who can access old world networks in ways others can't understand. She suggested Sarah ask Elena for more details, but Sarah asked why Shizuka brought it up. Shizuka explained that some users could access ruins and learn their layout, as well as the exact positions of every monster and human inside. She speculated that this might be why Akira didn't tell them the truth. Later, at their house, Sarah asked Elena about the pros and cons of being an old domain user and what it meant for those around them. Elena explained that the best benefit for old domain users is that they can access the old world network. The old domain contains countless treasures and priceless knowledge, but it's difficult to connect with their current technology. They even need special terminals to discover ruins. But users can access the old domain easily without any equipment, and there's a theory that the ancient network is immune to the colorless fog. However, the side effect is that users connect it directly to their brains, which poses risks if they take in more data than they can handle. After all, a surge of information could fry the user's brain, killing them instantly. Sarah was worried about this, but Elena reassured her that it's extremely rare. Despite the risks, Sarah concluded that being an old domain user isn't that great. But Elena countered, saying that it's so valuable that people might gang up to kidnap or exploit users. And if a government or corporation gets hold of a user, that person would probably get a cushy life in exchange for their freedom. With all of this in mind, in the present, she continued to ask Akira if he was the one who saved them. Akira worried if he could escape or reason with her, but Sarah persisted, knowing that Akira had a lot on his mind, so she promised not to pry. She just wanted to know one thing. Was he the one who saved them? If he didn't want to answer, she'd give up and never ask again. But one last time, she asked if he was the one who saved them from the ruins. Feeling trapped and guilty, Akira confessed his secret. He admitted that he was the one who saved them and felt sorry for not telling them earlier. But Sarah held his hands, smiling as she said, "Thank you for saving me and Elena." Her bright smile and sincere gratitude pained him. Sarah had waited so long to thank her savior and apologized for forcing him to reveal the truth. She couldn't help but express her thanks to the one who saved her. It was a selfish reason, she admitted. But Akira reassured her that she shouldn't worry because they saved his life too. He reasoned that they were just both lucky. If he said it like that, Sarah wouldn't make a big deal out of it. Then Sarah offered him some food, as he was probably hungry. But his face didn't seem particularly happy. While eating, Sarah discussed the gear they looted from those who attacked them, asking if Akira wanted a share. Akira declined, saying he had no right to claim it now since he left it there at the time. Sarah felt guilty because not only did he save their lives, but he also solved their financial problems. But Akira said that since he couldn't repay them for what they did for him, they should just cancel out their debts. Sarah explained that she's augmented with nanomachines stored in her chest. It was small when he saved them back then, but now it's packed. She needs nanomachines to survive, which is why she's really grateful to him. However, Akira felt embarrassed with her casually showing it to him. Sarah noticed this and offered to throw in a little extra since he saved their lives. But Akira simply told her not to tease him. Alpha chimed in, arguing that he never reacted like that with her. She also knew she had a better figure than Sarah. Is it the barely clothed look he's into? With everything settled, Akira thanked Sarah once again before leaving. Sarah hesitantly asked if she could tell Elena about it and promised him they wouldn't tell anyone. He agreed as long as they didn't spread it around. Besides, Shizuka knows it too. Akira told Sarah that Shizuka had bluffed him into revealing the truth. Then, he thanked them again and left. But instead of feeling happy, he felt down. He arrived in his hotel room feeling gloomy about what had just happened. Alpha asked if he was alright, and he said yes. But Alpha told him that he couldn't fool her. That's why if they're alone, he should let out whatever is holding him back because that alone will make him feel better. Akira looked at Alpha, and hearing those words, he vented his feelings. This was his first time being thanked, and it felt painful. He didn't rescue them because he wanted to save them. He rescued them as an excuse to kill, but this time they saved his life for real. He felt guilty seeing Sarah smile sincerely at him and thank him so happily. For him, it wasn't something he deserved. Alpha advised him that he should save them next time. This would cancel out his guilt by doing something good in return for what he did. Akira made up his mind and decided to follow her advice. He thanked her as he now felt a lot better than before. Alpha was glad to hear those words. He should also continue to get stronger so that he could help those two when the time comes. Then, Alpha reminded Akira that it had been 3 days. Didn't he say that he would visit Cheryl? At Cheryl's base, Akira finally arrived. It took a while, but he showed up, and that's what matters. Cheryl introduced Akira and instructed the others to treat him with respect, though someone didn't seem to recognize his strength. Akira made it clear that his only business was with Cheryl and that he had no interest in joining their gang. He told them to take any questions to Cheryl since she was their boss, not him. After saying that, he walked away. Cheryl was concerned. Akira was a significant figure for her gang, and she worried that his bluntness might cause trouble. Then, the boy from earlier arrogantly approached Akira, demanding an explanation for his words. But Akira told him to ask Cheryl, not him, and then ignored him, telling Cheryl to come with him as he needed her for something. This enraged the boy, who clenched his fist and tried to punch Akira, but Akira dodged and punched him back, throwing him to the ground, then pointed his pistol at him and fired a shot, shocking everyone. Fortunately, Akira purposely missed, leaving the boy trembling in fear. He then told Cheryl that since she runs the place, she should make sure they don't cross the line and get them in shape before he starts wondering if she ordered them to kill him. He glared at her menacingly, making her tremble. Then he left, with Cheryl following behind. Outside, Akira asked if that was good enough. Cheryl, confused, asked what he meant. Akira explained that Cheryl had called him to put on a show. Even Cheryl couldn't believe it, but she told him it was good enough. Now she started to wonder if it had all been an act. Akira led Cheryl to where the truck from Katsuragi was parked. Inside, Darius was glad to see Akira back in shape, and Katsuragi joked about him showing off his girlfriend. He then asked what brought them there, saying he was only interested if it paid. But Akira told him that it all depended on his business skills. Now that he knew it paid, Cheryl was even more confused. The proposal was that Akira wanted Katsuragi to help Cheryl run her gang. In exchange, Akira would sell his relics directly to him. It was a good deal if you thought about it, but Katsuragi wanted to confirm one thing first. What was Cheryl to him? Akira answered that they were just two kids from the slum. He knew her well enough to make this offer, but he'd cut her loose if she got in his way. That was Cheryl to him. Katsuragi understood but asked one last question. By selling relics to him, Akira wouldn't boost his hunter's rank. But Akira wasn't worried about that as long as he was paid enough to make up for it, and with that, they had a deal. Katsuragi then offered Cheryl a handshake, which confused her, but Katsuragi explained that since they would be doing business together, they should at least shake hands. Cheryl apologized and took his hand, but Katsuragi suddenly pulled her towards him, menacingly telling her not to betray him. Akira told Katsuragi that if she ever caused any problems, he should let him know immediately, and Akira would deal with her in his own way. Katsuragi asked what he meant by that, and Akira explained that he would kill her and dump her body in the wasteland. Since Akira was busy, he gave Cheryl a terminal to use if she needed something. He also told her that if she couldn't reach him for a long time, she should assume he was dead, and he would think the same. He left the details to them and walked away. As they watched him leave, Katsuragi was surprised by Akira's threat. But Cheryl defended him, reasoning that it only meant he was serious about their business. Katsuragi then asked if their relationship was really as simple as Akira said and if she was sure she wouldn't take it further, perhaps becoming his girlfriend. But Cheryl questioned how that connected with supporting her gang. For Katsuragi, it was everything. He wanted to work with Akira long-term, and that depended on his relationship with Cheryl. Cheryl admitted that she did want to get closer to Akira, but what could a slum kid do? Katsuragi noted that Akira knew two beautiful hunters, raising his standards. Cheryl asked where he was going with this, and Katsuragi took out a bag of makeup, explaining that it was high quality and would make her look good enough to attract Akira's attention. To clarify, this was an investment from Katsuragi for their long-term partnership. However, this only worsened things for Cheryl, wounding her pride as a woman. Meanwhile, at Cartridge Freaks, Akira entered and was greeted by Elena and Shizuka. Akira thanked Elena for her help, and when he was about to buy some ammo from Shizuka, she ran off the counter and hugged him tightly. Akira panicked, but when he heard Shizuka say she was glad he was safe, he calmed down and returned her embrace. Shizuka told Akira that being a hunter might be a dangerous job, but he shouldn't scare her like that. Akira apologized for making her worry. Elena leaned in and offered to hug him next, but Akira told her, "Please don't tease me." Speaking of hugs, Elena remembered that when he passed out, Sarah used Akira's body as a body pillow. She asked if he was okay since Sarah was stronger than she looked. Akira assured her that he was fine. Back at Cheryl's base, Cheryl asked Ario, the boy who had acted rudely toward Akira, if he was still there. Ario apologized for his mistake, but Cheryl, clearly pissed off, told him to leave. Ario tried to explain that since Akira looked like a normal kid, he thought he was fooling Cheryl. But this only enraged her more. She questioned how there could be a normal kid who hunted in the ruins for a living. If that was normal to him, she told him to go to the ruins and bring back a relic. She ordered her men to kick Ario out, yelling that since they had agreed to make her their leader, they should follow her orders. If they didn't want to, they should leave with him. They dragged Ario away as Cheryl panted, catching her breath. A few days later, in the Kuzuhara ruins, Akira was lifting a bag filled with relics, struggling under the weight. He complained that they had taken too many relics this time. But Alpha reminded him that he needed better gear ASAP. What happened last time could happen again, and if it did, they could easily tear him apart. She insisted he bear with it if he wanted to get stronger. While carrying the load, Alpha alerted Akira that someone was nearby. It was Ario. Akira recalled what Arisia had told him. Since Akira had secured help from a guy named Katsuragi, the gang was doing well now. Arisia had also promised Ario that she would talk things out with Cheryl, so he shouldn't do anything stupid. But it seemed like Ario had done it again. He had gone alone into the ruins with only a pistol, hoping to find a relic to get back in Cheryl's good graces. But he encountered a monster, and it looked like this was how his life would end. Using binoculars, Akira spotted him and commented on his recklessness for coming to the ruins with only a pistol. But looking back, he realized he had been just as reckless when he first started. He admitted that he had been pushing his luck and that meeting Alpha had made everything work out. Alpha agreed, noting that while they were both reckless, Ario didn't have Akira's luck. That was what separated them. It was a good point. Akira kneeled down and readied his rifle. He thought it must have been fate that they met and that helping him might give him some luck of his own. Besides, Akira could use a helping hand. The monster was about to kill Ario, but Akira sniped it in the head, saving Ario's life. Ario smiled, relieved that he had survived. He noticed a figure in the distance. It was Akira. Akira signaled for him to come over, and though terrified, Ario obeyed. Akira ordered him to carry the heavy bag, and together they barely made it back to Cheryl's base. Akira told Cheryl to take Ario back, explaining that he had helped him with a job. Akira smirked, pleased with the outcome. The relics they sold had fetched 8 million orum, after all. Katsuragi had almost talked him down to 5 million, but Akira still couldn't believe they had just made 7 figures from those relics. But for Alpha's plan, that money wouldn't last long, as they would spend it all tomorrow. Akira was shocked. It was 8 million orum, after all. But to Alpha, it was just pocket change. Akira didn't dare argue with her at this point, and since they will be spending those 8 million, Akira will have to stay in a room without a bathtub. Akira said his goodbyes and left. Cheryl asked Ario what had happened, but even he didn't know. While walking, Akira asked where they would spend the money. Alpha replied that they would buy a power suit. It's a suit that helps him carry heavy stuff easily. But with Alpha's help, she can make it much more useful than that. And this is his first step in conquering the ruin Alpha wants to take over. That's why he should expect great things from it. 2 weeks later, Akira is in his room, waiting patiently for the suit he ordered. Alpha doesn't want Akira to go to the ruins without it. Akira complained that he wants a room with a bathtub already. Alpha told him that Shizuka will call him when his order is ready, so he should focus on his studies. But Akira argued that her dress doesn't make things easier for him. It's like a game to her that every time he answers wrongly, she strips more clothes, and if he answers correctly, she puts more on. That's why Akira should work harder if he doesn't want her to end up naked. Akira could only think that this might be payback for him always telling her to put on more clothes. Then Alpha told Akira that Cheryl is calling him. He answered and asked what's up. Cheryl said that some men from another gang were demanding to see him. They're tough to deal with since they keep insisting Akira is the boss and can't be reasoned with. That's why she's asking him to come to her base. Akira saw this as a chance to escape the boredom of studying. As he arrived at the base, they announced his arrival. 3 guys, especially a man with a low mohawk hairstyle, stared at Akira. The guy really left some hair there, must be some kind of fashion. Well, shit. The guy with the weird hairstyle commented that Akira was younger than he expected. As Akira approached Cheryl, he asked what was going on. The guy with the strange hairstyle wouldn't stop talking, explaining to Akira that he wants them to give up the base and the rest of the turf to them. Cheryl argued back that they never agreed to any of that, but this guy just menacingly shouted at her to shut the FCK up. Cheryl could only glare at him. This guy got orders from someone named Shijima to ask for the turf they couldn't manage. But seeing that the gang is run by some kids, he got more ambitious and wanted to take it all. The guy came to Akira and asked if they had a deal, but Akira just told him to ask Cheryl since she already turned him down. Akira confirmed that the base is Cheryl's property and that she's the boss, not him. That's why the guy should listen to Cheryl instead of wasting his time on something as trivial as this. After saying that, he planned to leave. Cheryl tried to stop him, but this arrogant man threatened him, saying he works with the Shijima gang, which is on a whole different level compared to them. That's why Akira can't just walk away after turning them down. And besides, they already did their homework on him. Akira asked what they knew. He confidently said they could track down his hotel. Alpha advised Akira to move to a better spot, just in case. Akira seemed calm about his statement and said that attacking a hotel with hunters inside is suicide. But the guy didn't stop and continued to yap that they also know where he shops, at Cartridge Freaks. But as soon as Akira heard this, his eyes immediately changed. Just as the guy was about to finish his sentence, Akira shot him in the stomach, killing him instantly. Akira was pissed. The other men readied their guns, but Akira took them out first. Alpha asked if he really needed to kill him. Akira answered yes without hesitation. Alpha could only sigh and support him in his decision. After some time exchanging fire, those men lost to Akira, pleading for their lives. Cheryl watched in terror. Akira asked if they were working for Shijima too. They said yes and begged Akira not to shoot them. He didn't but instead asked them to lead him to their base and asked Cheryl to come with him. This shocked Cheryl. Why would Akira want to go to the enemy's base? In the streets, while dragging something, people stared and murmured about it. Cheryl couldn't even look at it properly. She finally gathered the courage to look behind her, only to find the corpse of the arrogant man from earlier being dragged by Akira. A wall with an aura that makes you want to stay away is guarded by dozens of men. Inside a certain room, the boss of the man Akira just killed introduces himself as Shijima and welcomes them to his turf. He tries to get the whole picture and asks if Akira is the reason why one of his men died. Akira says yes and calmly introduces himself. Next, he introduces Cheryl, making it clear that she didn't help, but she's involved, so he brought her along to keep her in the loop. Shijima's expression changes, and he asks why they're there. Akira responds that it's to settle the deal, and get some answers. Shijima glares at Cheryl, making her flinch in fear. He expects Akira to use Cheryl to beg for forgiveness, but it seems he only dragged her along. Thinking it's a waste of time, Shijima takes out his terminal, not taking them seriously, and asks what happened, saying he'll listen. Then, Akira suddenly says that it's a bad idea and that he'll just kill them one by one, shocking Shijima, who was just about to order his men to ambush Akira. Shijima drops the idea and places his terminal on the table, saying Akira is cocky. Akira remarks that the slums are nicer than the ruins because monsters don't run away after a few encounters. Spoken like a true hunter. Cheryl is confused by their conversation until she realizes that Shijima was planning to ambush them, but Akira figured it out and threatened to kill him first. Shijima, still puzzled, wonders how Akira knew his plan. Was it intuition? The rumors of him killing Cyborg might be true. Although Akira doesn't look strong, to Shijima, he's a landmine. Akira starts his questioning. Since he killed Shijima's men, will Shijima consider him an idiot, or will he seek revenge? If so, how many people does Akira have to kill before the rest give up? Shijima calmly asks why Akira killed his men. Akira answers that it was because they threatened him. Akira admits he's a coward. If someone threatens to kill him, he won't be able to sleep until he kills them first. Akira adds that Shijima's men came and told Cheryl to hand over her territory. He asks to confirm if Shijima sent his men to die as an excuse to launch an attack. Shijima asks Cheryl if that's true, and she says yes. Shijima understands Akira's point. If what Akira says is true, it's no wonder he thought they were looking for a fight. But Shijima can't back down just like that. If other gangs find out he backed down to a few brats, his reputation will suffer. However, Since he understands their perspective, he wants to settle things peacefully. That goes for Akira too, since he doesn't want pointless killing. Shijima proposes to give them 1,000,000 orum to make things fair. He also promises to play nice with Cheryl's gang from now on. For him, this is a generous proposal, as they both want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Akira tells Cheryl that he wants the 1,000,000 orum. Cheryl nervously says they don't have that kind of money, and Akira can't afford it either. Shijima clarifies that he's giving them a break by letting them pay off the killing. Akira sighs. With no choice, Akira slams 500,000 orum on the table and proposes to pay the rest later. Shijima asks when he can pay, but Akira simply says, if I can, reasoning that a hunter doesn't have a stable income. Shijima sits there, staring at them, making Cheryl shake with nervousness, afraid that they've offended him. Shijima breaks the silence and says he considers the matter settled, telling them to leave as he's busy. One of his men reports that they've left the base. In anger, Shijima starts kicking the corpse of his man. He was acting so calm earlier, but now he looks scared by the fact that Akira really could kill him if he wanted to. Furiously, he orders his men to throw the body out with the trash. In the streets, Cheryl stops walking. Akira looks back and asks what's wrong. She murmurs that she can't take it and starts crying. Tears stream down her cheeks. Her mental state can't handle it anymore. This makes Akira nervous, asking Alpha if it's his fault, but Alpha tells him that even she doesn't know. However, one thing Alpha is sure of is that people around them will misunderstand this. Using the old trick he pulled last time, she grabs his hand, and they run off. Inside a building, he rents a room where Cheryl doesn't stop crying, confusing him even more. Then he remembers something. He hugs Cheryl in a panic, hoping it will calm her down. Cheryl is surprised by Akira's move. His reason for doing this is that when Shizuka did this to him, it calmed him down. Cheryl hugs back, squeezing him tightly, and begs Akira to help her. Akira reassures her that he will. Hearing this makes Cheryl smile. Akira's assurance makes her feel much safer, and she collapses in his arms. The burden is too much, and she falls asleep. Akira, still confused, asks what that was about. The next morning, Cheryl apologizes for what she did yesterday, but Akira doesn't mind. A lot happened, so he understands the burden she's carrying. He tells her he's there if she needs anything. Taking that offer, she immediately asks if she can hug him again, but Akira asks why. She explains that feeling his embrace makes her feel more secure. Although she can't explain it properly, it's soothing for her. She elaborates that running a gang is exhausting, and she's mentally worn out. That's why she was useless yesterday. To her, hugs are a cure. One little hug makes life easier, so for her, what's the harm? With all that talking, Akira finally gives in and agrees to her request. For Akira, as long as she's not crying, it's not a big deal. Cheryl also requests if he could rub her head too. Akira can only agree at this point. After some time, Cheryl returns to her base, and Akira can finally relax. What happened earlier made Akira exhausted. Akira asks Alpha why Cheryl is acting differently, but Alpha tells him not to worry. But deep down, Alpha thinks Cheryl is subtly manipulating Akira's thoughts, even if just a little, and she needs to be cautious around her. If you've been following this series, you know that this isn't just an innocent hug. Back at Cheryl's base, everyone is panicking about why they haven't returned yet. Since they've been gone for a whole day, they think Shijima probably killed them, and there's a possibility that a war will start. One of the kids hears this and wants to leave. But before he can reach the door, Cheryl opens it and asks if something happened while she was gone. Instead of answering, they demand answers from her. What happened? Is Akira dead? Did they have to give up their base? But she smiles and says Akira isn't hurt, and they worked out a deal with Shijima. She reassures them that everything is fine, making them all celebrate happily. Cheryl asks what they're doing, as she assigned them their jobs. When she asks where the others are, they answer that they probably ran away. But Cheryl calmly says she'll just make new schedules. She orders Arisia to ask around to find out who ran away and report to her. Then she tells Ario to track down everyone who fled. They can leave, but she won't allow them to take what they stole. Her expression hardens, and she tells Ario to take this job seriously. He snaps and shouts that she should leave the job to him. Cheryl then tells everyone to get back to work. Ario, who's next to Arisia, asks why Cheryl is a bit different today. On the rooftop of her base, Cheryl runs happily, then stops to stare down. Her gang needs to grow, for her and Akira. Back at Akira's hotel, Alpha tells Akira that Shizuka just called to say his power suit is ready. Akira immediately wants to go. At Cartridge Freaks, Shizuka apologizes for the delay. Akira wastes no time and immediately puts it on. The TLT-type Circa power suit, Chiron. Shizuka compliments Akira, saying it looks good on him. He thanks her with a smile. Then, Alpha says, "Hey there, hottie. Nice suit. ROWR. Akira immediately tells her to shut up. Alpha pouts, saying he's being mean. Akira explains that he knows she's teasing him. In the wasteland, Akira tells Alpha that once he gets the hang of his power suit, he can finally collect relics again. But Alpha says they won't be collecting relics for a while. She explains that he needs to take extra care because of his terrible luck. They were attacked by a horde twice. To be safe, Alpha decides they should take a break for a while so Akira can be ready next time. Akira can't argue and just agrees, but he's concerned about his finances. Fortunately, Alpha has already thought of this. She suggests that by taking jobs from the hunter's office, he should be able to cover his living expenses. Once his rank is high enough, he should be able to rent a car designed for the wasteland. That's their goal. With this in mind, they decide to start training with his new power suit. A few days later, Alpha informs Akira that she has signed him up at the hunter's office. His job is to patrol the wasteland, specifically to eliminate monsters around Kageyama. Since he'll be working with other hunters, it's relatively safe. Alpha then wishes Akira good luck. Life as a gangster isn't easy, especially when Cheryl's gang is filled with kids. Aricia is the one in charge of keeping them in line. Their days are jam-packed. They clean their turf and patrol it regularly. For Aricia, cleaning is the worst. With all the useless trash and scrap they could sell, it just makes her job harder. But what's really awful is having to deal with the corpses of Cyborg's men that Akira killed. Even the kids are complaining about cleaning up dead bodies. Aricia tries to reason with them, saying that if they keep their turf clean, they might get a ration center built in their area. But to the kids, it wasn't worth it. However, when Aricia mentioned that if they let things get worse, the city might just torch the whole place to ashes, they suddenly became the most enthusiastic cleaners you've ever seen. Meanwhile, in the relic selling business, Akira tells Katsuragi he's got some relics to unload. Ario, on the brink of collapse from carrying those heavy relics, is practically seeing stars. Katsuragi eyes the relics, and you can see the fire of a determined businessman light up in his eyes. Sure, Akira saved his life, but that doesn't mean Katsuragi's going to go easy on him. The relics are prime goods, easily worth 8 million orum. So, he starts with an offer of 5 million orum. Without skipping a beat, Akira shrugs and says, I'll just sell it somewhere else. He turns to leave, and Katsuragi nearly chokes on his own desperation, begging Akira to stay. It's your cue to haggle. Katsuragi protests, trying to keep his cool, but Akira's not having it. Final offer, now. One look at Akira's eyes, and Katsuragi knows the guy isn't bluffing. He ups it to 7 million, but Akira just keeps walking. Katsuragi panics and blurts out, okay, 8 million orum.